My name is Sefu. We come to you with a new show called AfreeQa. Today, we take you to one of the African countries that actually uses green, yellow, red as their flag with a star in between called Cameroon. And my beautiful friend Hortense is my guest today. Please stay with us. Today, I have invited her to talk about her country, to talk about herself and what she's doing here in Ethiopia, in Addis, and why she's not in Cameroon. Why you chose Ethiopia. So I would love for you to introduce yourself, to tell us how long you've been here and what you are doing in Ethiopia.
Okay, so my name is Hortense or Hortense Mbea. I'm from southern Cameroon. I'm from an amazing city called Kribi. It's on the seaside. It's the most beautiful city in Cameroon. I've been in Ethiopia on and off for 15 years now. The first time I visited Ethiopia was in 1999. I was here for a few months to visit my dad while I was a student. And as soon as I finished school, I just ran back and settled in 2002. I stayed here for 10 years, then I left for 5 years because I found a job opportunity. The job made me sick, so I resigned and I ran back to Ethiopia in 2017. And in 2017, I created a brand called AfroPion because I wanted to come back to Ethiopia with something more than what I'd left with. I wanted to bring something back, and I'd had a 5-year experience in different African countries. So I wanted to enrich my Ethiopian experience with what I had learned from the rest of Africa. And that's how I created AfroPion. I also wanted to be a bridge between Ethiopia and the rest of Africa. And that's how I also named the brand AfroPion, Afro-Ethiopian, a connector. So bringing my all African experience to my Ethiopian experience. That's the origin of the brand.
Beautiful. So, of course, I'm going to ask you, what's the difference for you? Between Ethiopia and Cameroon?
The food.
Major part.
I think the food is a major issue. I've never traveled with so much food. I always travel with so much food when I come back to Addis. Somebody needs to start cultivating plantain, please. I think that there are more similarities than differences. Ethiopian people are very proud people. People in Cameroon are also very proud, very rooted in their culture and their traditions. The main difference is that we were colonized in Cameroon. So we were colonized by 3 different European powers. We were colonized by the British, by the French, and by the Germans. So I think that Cameroon was such a juicy cake that everyone wanted a slice. And I actually come from the part of Cameroon that was colonized by the German. Very violent colonization. So I think that the main difference is that it's the legacy, the very negative legacy of colonization that still carries on to this day, still has an impact and still hinders us from being truly ourselves. Whereas Ethiopia was always free, never colonized, always stayed true to itself, always had that freedom. So I think that makes for 2 very different countries. But as I said, Ethiopians are proud, Cameroonians are also very proud, very focused on their culture, very welcoming, very warm African people. I think that the main characteristic of Africans is that we are so welcoming. Exactly. We are all embracing. We'll let anyone come. And even if they're coming with bad intentions, we'll just welcome them. And then maybe after some time realize that it wasn't such a good idea. But yes, I think the main difference is our history and the legacy of colonization.
Okay. Over here, we had talked about, while we're talking about Cameroon, what kind of music we wanted to play. So I want to play one song here. Okay. And it's Mano Dibango.
Ooh, the legend.
Yes.
He's one of the ancestors now. He left us.
I know. We actually did lose a lot of musicians during the past
COVID.
between the past 2 years. Is she?
Get to say.
Something beautiful about Manu Dibango is that he almost exiled himself to France very long time ago, but he still kept singing in his local language. He was always singing in Douala. He hardly ever sang in French or English. He stayed true to his roots and he sang in Douala, which is a very melodic language actually. It's a beautiful language for singing.
You see, which brings us to my next question. Because I know there's a lot of cultures, different cultures in Cameroon. So of course my next question would be, how many ethnic groups and languages does Cameroon have?
So official languages, we have English and French. But we have about 250 ethnic groups, and each and every one of those groups has their own language. So that's 250 local languages, 250 cultures, culinary traditions, ways of dressing. So yeah, 250 tribes more or less for 25 million people, I think we are now in Cameroon. So very diverse, a very diverse country. And then also there's the fact that we are one of the rare countries in the world with two different languages. So half of the country was colonized by the British and speaks English, and the other half was colonized by the French and speaks French. And my small part of Cameroon was colonized by the German, and we still have a few people there who speak German, and lots of German mixed, families who have German names who still hold on to that German culture. So I'm a small German enclave in Cameroon.
One of my questions was actually, we hear a lot of the issues between the French-speaking Cameroonians and the English-speaking Cameroonians. So for us to understand, what is the problem? Why are they fighting?
That's a
what
very
is
good
behind?
question.
Yeah, what is
know.
behind?
I don't know. Well, I mean, we kind of know on the surface what's going on, but it's deeply rooted. Again, it's the legacy of colonization. It's this division that was sowed upon us. It's these tribes and people who are supposed to be part of one whole, and who are divided by what? By European languages. How can African people be divided along European linguistic lines? It makes absolutely no sense to me. And we're part of one country. We call it the United Republic of Cameroon. We're united now. It used to be more of a federation. Now we're united. We're one country. We're a whole. So Anglophone, Francophone shouldn't be an issue. But unfortunately, Cameroon was always very strongly dominated by the Francophone part. So you had more opportunities economically, even when it came to having access to good schools and universities. Most of the investments happened in the French part of the country. And the English part of the country was very docile and submissive and said nothing for the longest time. And at some point they said, you know what? We also want to have access to good housing and good schools and good hospitals. And we don't have any ministries, we don't have any major administrations in our part of the country. So we feel very ostracized, we feel left out. We want to be at the same level as our Francophone brothers. So the tension started there, the fact that the Anglophones felt, rightfully so, that they were treated like second zone Cameroonians. Tension started there. There was a movement. They started this movement that was supposed to lead to them separating from Cameroon, and that's where the violence started. That's where the violence erupted. There were all kinds of demonstrations. They used to do what we call ville morte, where all of the schools were closed, the businesses were closed in protest to the central government. And the response was to crack down on them and to send the army. And that's when the violence started. And it's been escalating and escalating for the past 3 to 4 years. So it's become like a full-on civil war between brothers, and we had no tension. The Francophones didn't really see the Anglophones as being separate, other, or different, but this has just brought so much resentment to the surface, and I don't know how we can move forward and move away from this situation.
Well, we pray that we do, because I think we all in Africa have that issue, especially currently right now. So let's go to the music part, because when I was reading, one thing that I realized was Cameroon is famous for what?
What are we famous for?
For your music.
Is that what we're famous for?
That's what it says. I'm like, what do you mean they're famous? Cameroon is known for the type of, especially makusa,
Yes,
for the
true.
type of music that you actually gave the rest of Africa or
Of
the world.
And people have appropriated our music. We have inspired so many musicians at the international level. You know the Shakira,
Yeah.
that song that she sang for the World Cup,
Waka waka.
she stole from a group of musicians in Cameroon called the Zangalewa. And it was such a powerful national anthem already in Cameroon, so I don't know what she thought, how she thought she was going to get away with stealing that song that was so popular and so known. So the Zangalewa were actually soldiers, they were part of the army, and they founded their band, their group. And the song that she took, Zamina Mina, Waka Waka, it's the song that soldiers sing when they march. Wow. It's a marching song. And she took it and she said that the inspiration came to her in her garden, in nature. It came from the Zangalewa.
So you see, you've even provided her that.
And even Michael Jackson was inspired by Manu Dibango. And again, instead of collaborating and giving him his dues, he stole Soul Makossa. From Manu Dibango.
Wow, that was a lot. Yes, you're right.
He stole Soul Makossa.
What is unique about Cameroon?
What is unique about Cameroon? I think our diversity. Our diversity, it's part of our richness. I told you there's 250 ethnic groups. And we managed to live in peace for a very long time. We should be able to move back to that peace soon enough. So the diversity is amazing. I think we have the best food, again, in the whole world. And that also comes from our diversity. The way that we've been very creative with our food. I think the Cameroonians in Cameroon, we're very resilient. And we know how to laugh at our problems. I think that that's also something, it's a survival technique that we use a lot in Cameroon is, we turn everything into a joke. And that's our way of moving forward and of being resilient. So I think that, yeah.
Cameroon has Pygmies.
Mm-hmm.
And when
in
it comes...
my region.
Okay, you see. So currently now in 2021, how are the Pygmies treated? And how are they do they actually come to the city? Do they socialize? Do they have a good relationship with the city people? How are they viewed?
So in my part in Kribi, well, in my area in southern Cameroon, there's a region where we do have a very strong Pygmy population. Their main city is Zolodorf, and they still live very traditionally in the forest. They still have the same culture and traditions, and they're very spiritual people. People go to them a lot to consult for spiritual reasons, for healing. They're known for their juju. They're known for their witchcraft. And to this day, they're still, hunter-gatherers. They still live in the forest. They hunt. And they have this tradition where they will buffer their teeth to make them pointy so that they can eat the meat raw without even having to cook it. So they have these pointy teeth. And the way that they're seen, they're still seen as very, how do I put it? We see them a bit like savages. I think we don't understand them very well. I think that we see them as savages because we were taught that we are supposed to be civilized and act in a certain way. But these are the people who have stayed true to themselves.
Right.
They have remained uncolonized. And we have been so westernized that we look down on them and think that we're superior because we dress, because we go to school, speak French, English, whatever. So the Pygmies are not that respected unless it's for their spiritual powers and all of that metaphysical you know, aura that surrounds them. And they can come to the city. They don't really live in the city that much. They stay in their communities. We go towards them when we need them. They come to the cities when they want to trade. Okay. You know, they can trade. They make beautiful textile from bark, the bark of trees. They will beat the bark of a tree into submission and turn it into a textile. It's pretty popular nowadays, now that we are trying to use more local and traditional textiles. So we go to these communities to source this bark textile. But yeah, Pygmies pretty much keep to themselves. They're not endangered or anything. There's no violence against them because they're Pygmies. You know, we leave them alone and they kind of leave us alone as well.
So now we come to, you know, supposedly we're supposed to start the fair trade.
AfCFTA, African Continental Free Trade Area.
Exactly. What is your thought, especially since you're, you know, you produce items, so, you know, going forward, you'd like to be able to send, you know, sell it to Kenyans, Tanzanians, even Cameroonians. Living here, we're going to have some kind of a money exchange, because now we're all buying in either dollar or pound. And I think most of us actually buy in dollars as opposed to pound or euro, do we?
Well, in Cameroon, it's mostly the euro that we use because our currency is pegged. It's connected to the euro, as it was connected to the French franc in the past.
So, tell me how you vision.
So I just came back from a really interesting conference in Durban that was organized by Afreximbank, the African Import-Export Bank that's based in Cairo. They organized the Intra-African Trade Fair, IATF. The last one that they organized was in 2019, I believe it was in Kigali, where they bring together creatives, entrepreneurs, business people from Africa and the rest of the world to see what opportunities lay ahead for Africa. And something really interesting that Afreximbank has created is something called the PAPS, the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, to resolve this issue of having to pay in different currencies, and it's always hard currency from abroad, right? So Afreximbank came up with a system called the PAPS, where someone in Nairobi will be able to buy something from AfroPion in Kenyan shilling, and I will receive Ethiopian birr, because it will go through Afreximbank. It's going to serve as a clearinghouse, as a guarantor as well. But they will be able to pay me in their local currency and I will receive my local currency.
Wow.
Without like all of the very expensive commissions and all of these exchange rate issues. So the Pan-African payment and settlement system is going to be the solution going forward to payments in Africa. It's going to make everything so much easier for people who don't have credit cards, people who don't have access, you know, to even to banking. It's going to be a system that's going to be very democratic and that's going to help me as a business person and help the customer as well.
That's very exciting.
It
Especially since right now, currently, we're on the hashtag No More Movement.
Yes.
Or no more. No, not no more movement, but no more.
No
so,
more.
You know, I would love to talk about that too, because starting with the no more, we have now seen the rest of Africa actually joining. And right now, it's like every African country is like vibrating, shaking, you know? So I think this is our time to actually, you know, arise and unite.
I mean, it's always been our time, and I think that we've always known as Africans that we are all the same, that we're connected, and that we have a common enemy, which is neocolonialism, which is, you know, all of these foreign powers trying to come and wreak havoc on our countries and create all of these disturbances. And Ethiopia was pretty sheltered from all of that. You protected yourselves really, really well, but that's something that we see on a daily basis. There's even an expression for it. There's something, for example, when it comes to former French colonies, we call it France-Afrique, France-Africa. There's still this nexus where they won't let us go, where they will, we've seen so many wars. We've seen what happened in the Congo, what's happening in Cameroon, what happened in Gabon. All of these former French colonies, they have been meddling in our politics, in our economy for their own benefit. So we have been suffering from this, and it's really important that we stand together as Africans. It's 55 African countries, so we do have to unite, and we have to go back to this Pan-Africanism. We have to remember our leaders. We have to remember the founding fathers of the Organization of African Unity. Remember Emperor Haile Selassie, remember Kwame Nkrumah, remember all of them, Thomas Sankara. Never forget, because they silenced them.
Yeah.
They were like our African messiahs. And have we ever had any of that caliber since? So we have to go back to those ancestors, to those founding fathers, and keep that message alive. And I think that No More is reigniting all of that. It's speaking to our souls. It's the ancestors rising again through us. And it's a beautiful thing. I mean, anything that can bring Africans together, let's hold on to it. And let's not let them take it away from us, because that's what happens. Exactly. They destroy all of these things. When they see all of the power that we have, they're afraid of our power. They're afraid of losing control over Africa. But Africa doesn't belong to them. Africa belongs to us.
I know.
So No More is so welcome right now and forever.
Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful. So now let's get back to your artistic vision.
Yes.
AfroPion, who I just love, by the way.
Thank you. And you're wearing it so beautifully.
Yeah, and you know, it's so lovely to have somebody that actually wants to combine, you know, not necessarily just Ethiopian and another African country, but for the whole. Mm-hmm. So you represent it so beautifully that we have quite a few of your items all around. If we could talk about your rings, for example, you know?
So this is, I call it the mescal ring. It's one of the Lalibela Coptic crosses that you're wearing upside down. Okay. So AfroPion is very inspired by our culture. I like to say that Africans are cultural billionaires. Exactly. We have 55 African countries. We have immense culture, tradition, so much inspiration. So all of my inspiration comes from Africa. Everything I make is made in Africa. I work with African artisans and artists. Right now I'm working with people from 15 different African countries, including some islands. So I get my inspiration from our culture, from our tradition, from the past, and I try to bring the past into today and into tomorrow. And it's really a way of showing Africa and African excellence, showing where we came from, so people remember how powerful we used to be and how powerful we're supposed to be, how rich we are, and how much we have to offer to the world. I mean, the whole world is inspired by Africa. They keep taking our creation.
Thank you.
They hardly ever give us credit, but we create the trends. We are the blueprint. We're the origin, we're the source. So we have to start claiming it as well. We have to start making it work for Africans as well and give access to beautiful African products to Africans and to the rest of the world.
The necklace that I'm wearing is actually from AfroPion. So if you could describe.
Yes, it's one of my favorite pieces, and it's really emblematic of what the brand stands for. So this is called the Morsi necklace. Mm-hmm. So it's composed of a leather collar that comes from Niger. I have an amazing artisan in Niger who makes these colors for me with traditional, you know, not modernly treated leather, very artisanal leather. And then the wooden piece in the middle, the centerpiece, is a Morsi mouthplate that comes from the Morsi tribe in southern Ethiopia. As you know, the women will wear these mouthplates. And actually, the mouthplates are connected to slavery. I discovered a few years ago, I was discussing with an anthropologist who explained to me the history of the Morsi mouthplate and the fact that there were these incursions in southern Ethiopia where they were trying to come and steal women for slavery, you know, the Arabs, that trade back in the day. And the women decided that to make themselves less marketable or non-marketable, they would start disfiguring themselves, and they started wearing these mouth plates. And it's now it's become part of the culture and the tradition, but the origin is slavery.
Here they come again.
They're everywhere. And then the bottom part is, it comes from one of my favorite cultures also in Mali, is the Dogon people. So the Dogon people made, or they make, these brass pendants that are worn in different ways, and the symbols that you see on them are very specific to the Dogon people. And they are always focused on astronomy or astrology. So these are always, like, whatever they do, it has to do with the planets, the stars, the moon, the constellation. And the Dogon people several centuries ago discovered a constellation called Sirius without having any modern equipment before the white man came and discovered it. Well, they would claim that they discovered it before us. But we already had identified, the Dogons had already identified the Sirius constellation. So this is very emblematic of Afropian. You have Niger with a very, traditional artist making this leather. You have the Morsi people with deep, painful history that's behind it. And then you have the beauty of the Dogon people. And that makes the Morsi necklace.
No wonder I was feeling rather
inspired and spirited. And
thank you for allowing me to wear this piece.
Thank you for wearing it so beautifully.
Thank you. So tell me the vision behind the textile, I guess. The jumpsuit comes with the textile, right?
It does. Well, to start with the jumpsuit's name is Shifta.
Ah, okay.
Shifta is my little soldier, my little rebel, very fitting currently. So this was inspired, by the powerful African woman who's a soldier, who's a mother, who's a nurturer. So this is my take on an African soldier's uniform. I actually have a version of it where there's military medals on it. So this is a Shifta jumpsuit. The fabric is a batik that's handmade in, hand-dyed. This batik is hand-dyed in Ghana. It's hand-dyed in Ghana. I was very inspired by the fact that it reminded me of flames, these colors, the combination. And one thing that I love about Africa is the richness of our textiles. So as I said, this is batik from Ghana. It's hand-dyed by artisans. I also use hand-woven fabrics, a lot of hand-woven fabrics, be it from Ethiopia, from Mali, from Tunisia, from South Africa. I think that the true African textile is the hand-woven textile or the hand-dyed textile. We are now flooded with what they call African print that's printed mainly nowadays in China, and it originated in Holland. The history behind what they call the African print is that the Dutch were trading with Indonesia, and they wanted to start selling Indonesian women these fabrics. And they had this technique called the wax printing technique. So they started printing these fabrics and tried to sell them to Indonesian women who were like, no, what we have is so much better. We don't want this. Go away. So they find themselves with this cargo of fabrics, and the fabrics land in Africa somehow. And the African women and people loved it. But it's still called to this day Dutch wax because it's printed in Holland. The main factories that make these African prints are still in Holland. They're not in Africa. We used to have a few printing presses in Africa, in places like Nigeria, Ghana, Congo, Cameroon. They've gone extinct because the Chinese print these fabrics so much cheaper than we could ever print them in Africa. But the beautiful thing about this African print, as they call it, is that even though it originated in Holland, it was made for the Indonesian market, for the Asian market. It accidentally found itself in Africa. We can still call it African though, because we've made it so beautiful, we've claimed it, we've elevated it, we've inspired it as well, because all of these prints that they have nowadays are inspired by African culture. So even if it's not made in Africa, it still has our imprint on it. So we can still claim it, but I would rather use the amazing array of handmade and hand-woven textiles that we have on the continent. I really want people to go back to those textiles because we're losing artisans. The artisans that I work with, a lot of them complain that they can't train any apprentices because none of the young people want to do this very physical, tedious work of, spinning the yarn, weaving, dyeing. It's a lot of work, but it's beautiful, and there's so much love that goes into it. I think that whatever is handmade, like even spiritually, will feed you because the amount of love and passion and patience that the person has put into it, you can feel it when you wear it. It just hits you differently.
That's very
You can
true.
tell it's not factory made.
That's very true. One thing that I want to talk about is dyeing. as you've
as
noticed.
in dyeing fabrics, not
Dyeing-
as in dyeing and leaving this planet.
No,
and
not as dyeing leaving this planet, but dyeing fabrics. Because I've noticed in the last, let's say, 5, 6, 7 years, Ethiopia has moved from just our white cotton
the gabi,
Gabi
all of
or
the
Abasha
shema.
libs, we've moved into dyeing these.
True.
So, I mean, I'm not sure where they get their dye, but I do buy a lot of their clothing, and technically after one wash, that color has faded. So how, you being from where you are and you know a lot of dyeing, how do we teach our Ethiopian people that are actually in that business about dyeing?
I mean, I'm all for cross-fertilization, and that's actually part of my plans for the future. It has been for a while. I would love to have dyers, professional dyers from West Africa come here and teach their techniques to Ethiopians. Nigeria makes something called adire. Ghana makes batik. Togo makes amazing batik as well. Mali will make bogolan from natural dye. So I think that there's so much that could be learned and transferred from one African region to the other. And it would be wonderful indeed to have people come from West Africa, teach us how to dye here with indigo. The indigo leaf, which is a beautiful deep blue, and it stays. You can wash it 1,000,000 times, it will stay blue, and it doesn't affect the environment at all. Bogolan, that people unfortunately call mud cloth, but it's not mud. It uses natural clay, all kinds of clays, and it also stays. So there's so much that we could learn, and you can make so many colors from natural dyes, but people need to be aware of it, because the easy solution is going to the chemicals and the availability also of the
chemical dyes.
The dyes, yeah, there's an issue with the availability. So if it's only the chemical dye that's available, that's what you're going to use. And also people's resources don't necessarily permit them to go to natural, because natural is more expensive sometimes. Okay, so this is, let's say, one of my mottos. So the brand slogan is "Wear Africa Proudly." That is my philosophy, that is my brand DNA, it's what carries my brand, it's what carries me. And I do like to, whenever I find, you know, a catchphrase or whatever, I do like to share it with people. So there's something I came up with that's TGIA, Thank God I'm African, that just came to me, I think, in a bar, drinking with a friend. We were having a conversation where I was telling that friend, we hit the jackpot. We're women, we're black, we're African, thank God. And it all led to this. Thank God I'm African. I decided to print it on tote bags and on T-shirts, and people love it. And whenever I travel, like I go through the airport, I have my Thank God I'm African T-shirt, and it always like opens a conversation. People are like, "Oh, this is very bold." "Oh, yes, indeed." So it's a great conversation starter. It's a great way of also showing boldness, because we have to be bold in the way we are proud. You know, some people feel offended, that's their problem, but we're proud Africans and we need to show it. So thank God I'm African. I wouldn't want to be anything else. So I'm Hortense Mbea, I'm from Cameroon, and I have a brand called AfroPion, which mixes Ethiopia and the rest of Africa. And I'm really, really excited to share with you today some of my looks from my latest collection called Inore, which is inspired by a traditional tribal dance from Rwanda. So we're going to start with the look that Samarina, the beautiful Samarina, is wearing. She has a black blouse called the Victoria blouse. It's made out of Ethiopian hand-woven cotton, or menen. Her skirt is called the frou-frou skirt. It's made of Ethiopian denim. And then at the bottom, you have Bogolan from Mali. She has a beautiful leather belt made out of Ethiopian leather. And then she's wearing a statement piece around her neck, which is called the Mursi necklace. Thank you, Samarina. The second look, our warrior, Jakob. He is wearing a reversible poncho, so he can wear it inside out. It's made of hand-woven cotton from Ethiopia, the shirt as well. And then he's wearing harem pants made of indigo-dyed fabric from Côte d'Ivoire. and a statement piece around his neck, which is a tribal necklace from the Maasai people of Kenya. Thank you, Jakob. Finally, we have the lovely Melat. She's wearing my interpretation of a woman's three-piece suit to go to work, so I call it the Sera. Sera means work in Amharic, so this is my version of African workwear. So she's wearing a coat that's made of Ethiopian linen. It's this beautiful white hand-woven cotton. Underneath it, she has a blouse made of batik from Ghana. And I tried to have something reminiscent of the Rwandan traditional clothing, since this is a Rwanda-inspired collection. So that's why she has this draping down the front and then the batik pants that she's wearing. The bag that Melat is presenting is my latest creation. It's called Nkulal. Nkulal means egg in Amharic, and I was inspired by the shape of an egg. So it's Ethiopian denim, Ethiopian leather, and at the front you have this beautiful hand-woven fabric from Côte d'Ivoire made by the Baoulé people. Thank you.